Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather forecast for the week of May 31st through June 6th. And then also I want to take a look at the monthly for June too. We have an interesting month coming up. One thing I just want to start off with, we just went into Mercury Retrograde, which I mentioned last week, and in Gemini, in one of the signs that it rules. So to maybe reiterate a little bit, or just go a little bit more on that. Obviously, as we all know at this point, Mercury Retrograde creates a lot of communication issues, usually delays, travel, and in travel, in projects, things like that. A lot of misunderstandings, things like that. And then always a good time not to really launch new things that you want to do, but rather focus more on what you already have going on and follow through with that. And then also kind of getting more inner with our thoughts and our conversation, and like really mulling over, chewing over a lot of the things that are on our minds right now. So like when it's in Gemini, Mercury is probably like what's going to cause a lot of those issues is too much information, really. Just really clogging up the ability to communicate or think in the way that you normally do. So it can almost like a traffic jam of information at times, and can, therefore create misunderstanding because you're not really processing as well, therefore not communicating as well, with everybody else on the planet. So that's how we'll have some of our misunderstandings. Now, I would also think, that, once again, in an air sign, if there's going to be odd things going on too, in communications, but maybe some network type things that have to do with networks, communicating kind of networks, things like that, could be the mechanical or technological issues we'll be seeing mainly, things that maybe we that tie into somehow with networking and communicating, things like that. And then so I just wanted to get a little bit more on that, and just kind of like continue use this time to really go through all the information you've been getting the last 3 months, and discerning as well as you can what is valuable for you and what is not. Also, going right into this week, and it perfected really in the early hours of this morning, Monday. So it was really in effect already on Saturday and Sunday, was Mars trining Neptune. And that's a really nice flow of our energy, our active physical energy, like flowing harmoniously out. So that's really nice. And it does get us usually involved with our actions, much having to do with helping others, in some way or another. So I mean, and also get us interested in like spiritual pursuits, maybe in a more active way, that kind of thing too. But it's Neptune once again, dissolutes energy. So, it's going to lower our ego demand energy, and we'll be much more willing to help others and be tolerant and that kind of thing. But it is an odd mix today too, being Monday when this perfected, and will also stay in effect for another couple days really. Venus is hitting the Saturn-Uranus square, with a semi-square to Uranus and a sesquiquadrate to Saturn. And, what I was kind of really feeling with that is that like like a frustration with certain relationships that you're trying to connect with, that are maybe new relationships, or ones that are the window for them being there for you is not a long period of time. And so far, maybe not quite being able to completely connect on them, because the situation hasn't completely developed yet. So there's things that are kind of blocking those relationships from developing right now, even though there's a lot of exciting and insightful information for you maybe coming from them. It's almost like they need to just kind of be put into a standby mode to let other things develop before you can then really take a course of action that starts to meet what you were hoping to go for in them. So requiring some patience, therefore, and really just allowing things to unfold. Now, Wednesday is an interesting day this week, and there's three things on Wednesday I want to mention that are all significant, and one of them is really the main thing of this week that needs to be talked about. And so the first thing is the sun is sextile Chiron, and the sun sextile Chiron is nice. It's very helpful energy in the sense of having opportunities to learn things that are very beneficial to us and the path that we're on, and actually be a teacher too. So it's a reciprocating kind of relationship, that there be opportunities to be a teacher about things like that too. And also maybe what that Chiron healing energy can come in therefore too, and help us to steady ourselves in finding new parts of our personality, or even expanding parts of who we are already, and being easily able to fit into that without a lot of stress or anything. So that's a nice little aspect going on Wednesday. And then Venus is changing signs this week. It's going into Cancer, and if you remember, that's where Mars is. So kind of really bringing relationship stuff into the Cancer zone. Now, Mars is not comfortable in Cancer, but Venus, on the other hand, is very comfortable in Cancer. I've always kind of felt that, besides the three signs that Venus rules or is exalted in, which is, Taurus, Libra, and Pisces, that Cancer is the next sign that Venus, to me, really functions well in. And I'll be honest with you, if you're looking for, that perfect romantic partner, that's, that caring, soul for you, everybody needs a partner who has a Venus in Cancer. Anyway, that of course is not possible. But anyway, Venus in Cancer is just very loving and affectionate and sweet to the people that she is close to, and just really feels intimate in her with what she considers her family, or her good friends that really are kind of your family anyway. Very faithful, dedicated to them, and it's sweet too, because it's an emotional support, and usually Venus fits with Cancer well, so there's a good give and take. It's not uncomfortable there with emotions, that kind of thing. I mean, some of us can also see our relationships with our mothers maybe like come to the forefront or front burner or be a focal point while Venus is in Cancer too, and that can depending on our relationship with our mothers be positive, negative, or both. So that is going to be for Venus will be in Cancer for few weeks, so about 3 weeks, and it'll be a really sweet time to make like these deeper, intimate, emotionally supportive connections with people that you're feeling comfortable with, so that's nice. But then here comes the stress point of this week. It's exact on Wednesday, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's really in effect all week. This is, we have a T-square forming, and a mutable T-square between the aforementioned Mars in Cancer. Now, Mars in Cancer versus Venus in Cancer is very unhappy. Mars in Cancer, which I talked about a couple weeks ago when it went into Cancer. So it's in fall, and, and it's just, Mars just can't function the way it likes to normally. When it's in Cancer, it's really at the whims of other people and other people that it may not exactly be comfortable with or act the same way, function the same way, that kind of thing. So it's already struggling there. And the thing that happens with Mars in Cancer is it gets very defensive, therefore, because it's just feeling insecure. It's feeling ornery. It's not feeling like its ego and it's the pride part of thing is being appealed to enough. So like Mars in Cancer can, fall into the trap of trying to manipulate others, trying to coerce what it wants out of others. So we already have a very sensitive Mars is my point, and so now it's getting into a T-square, which is one of the grand aspect patterns that is, one of the most tense aspects, because there's just a lot of tense, crisis, challenging energy that's building up and really making most people feel like they have to act or do something about it. And with Mars involved, it definitely is. And with the mutable T-square too, it's like the actions have to be very, very quick and responsive to ever-changing circumstances. So that's, and with Mercury retrograde, that may not be the easiest thing. It can be hard, once again, get jammed up with all what's coming at us. Yet Mars energy comes in, gets defensive. So what's the T-square with? And that's where we really end up getting this ratcheted up into what I think can be a very, very triggering week for those who are not able to control like their impulsive, angry, irritable feelings and stuff. So we have to be really careful this week about how we're feeling and how we're reacting and to that and how we're acting out, because this T-square is Mars squaring Eris, the goddess of chaos, in Aries, in Mars sign, where, she's just, going to add a lot more anger and irritability about the current situations going on in our shared all lives, just feeling like things are just so like chaotic, just up in the air. Like, what should I do? And actions just seem jagged, like, not really getting the results we want from them, maybe even creating more chaos than, what was even originally there. And then the other side of the T-square is Mars opposite Pluto. So this is like where things can get really, really tricky with this, because Mars opposite Pluto has a tendency to take the angry energy and find an enemy, an open enemy, an adversary to like push in a very violent, angry way its feelings towards. So this is one of the main aspects of literally conflict, violence, uncontrollable anger. And here we are throwing it in with Eris and the chaos. So you can see this is going to be a week where the ability to control ourselves is going to be tested, like someone just pushing your button and just grinding it as hard down as they can. So I would not be surprised if a lot of the current situations that are already being affected by Mars and Cancer. And remember, Mars and Cancer is really defensive stuff on a big scale too. It's nationalism, it's division, it's like trying to protect homeland. It can be very like politically get nations and leaders into very defensive postures and get this very like blind zeal behind what's going on, and then, of course, Eris is just these uncontrollable things, like just pushing that even more. So then the Pluto comes in, and that's where like, the power trip comes in, that, those who have authority or in power can react very aggressively and violently back towards anything like that. And it's when Mars and Pluto are together like this, and in our regular lives, it's going to be like one-on-one relationships that are really going to be like triggering points, like where we literally may have like open enemies that we know of, or open enemies that now are new ones that get created, and just get into these really just intense situations with them that can really, if we're acting impulsively and out of arrogance and anger, can really cascade into something really ugly. So we really need to like have control of the impulses that like this energy is going to be pushing at us when we're talking about it on an individual level. But here's the thing, the Mars Pluto, when they're together, it's an incredible force and ball of energy. It is an energy that does not end or terminate until it reaches where it wants to go. It is going to go and reach the top of the mountain. And so this energy is extremely transformative if it's used in the right way. And when you have it in an opposition, it's the same thing. In an individual way, that can really turn one-on-one relationships into these amazingly transformative experiences for both parties involved. So it's not like there's not some silver lining or some useful way to use Mars Pluto. But in this T-square, with Eris involved, the energy is going to be so intense to act impulsively and reactively to anything that's, upsetting you or annoying you or angering you. So like the ability to hold this in check for an individual, especially someone who's easily triggered, is really going to be tested this week. And on a larger scale, we know that we have a world full of us, and that there are many people who are not going to be able to control that energy. So I can't sit here and say that, it's going to be a rosy week. These things that are really angering people these days, the divisiveness in the world these days, the big issues, the these things can really explode this week and go to levels that can really, once again, transform things, but not in a way that many of us or most of us or even all of us would ultimately prefer if it dissolves into some total chaotic, violent situations in certain places. So really tough energy to be aware of this week. Like I said, last week, when we went into Mercury retrograde, Saturn retrograde, and that first eclipse season, and we're getting tight to the Uranus-Saturn square, the retrograde second hit. This month is going to be a tough month, and these Mars and these other events like this are the things that trigger that energy that's running in the background. So we really have to be aware of that. Okay, now going back to a positive note, on Thursday we have two beautiful trines to work with. The first one is one of the best aspects that you can possibly have, and that's Venus trining Jupiter, where we can get benefits through others, through our relationships with others, through social interactions, like we get new opportunities to expand, and actually maybe new relationships even that are very helpful and expansive. So that's all possibility. And then what's really nice about it, and that can bring in actually financial benefit too. And Venus and Jupiter together, it can bring in financial benefit. But Saturn, the Sun and Saturn are trying too, because the tendency with Venus, Jupiter is you can get passive and just make it a nice, lazy, easy day. But Sun trying Saturn's like, let me take some of this stuff, these opportunities, these benefits that have been presented to me, and really in a really positive attitude way, get them down to work for me in the practical world. So really being able to take that stuff and transform some of the stuff around you on a really practical level. So that's really, and that can, really give you the ability to focus that energy and concentrate that energy. It gives you some good insight into what you want to do, and it gives you the disciplined mind and will to do it, and a organized mind too, has a plan. And when you carry through with something like that, you get long-term results. So that's a really good day for some really positive stuff to look for. And then just on Saturday, the Mercury retrograde goes back to that square with Neptune that it made about a week ago. So once again, I've said this before with Mercury retrograde, when it is hitting all these aspects as it's going in to the retrograde period, and then it backtracks and hits all those aspects again, and then when it's going to go direct, it'll come forward again and hit all those aspects again. Those aspects are really imprinted in the whole Mercury retrograde period. So we have Mercury retrograde is squaring Neptune for the second time on Saturday. So really the weekend, once again, it'll be a height time of just a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of miscommunication with people. Really feed that part of the Mercury retrograde. So, that'll be strong. So, so that's the week, and I really want to get into the month. And, there's, to me, the month, really the big thing, obviously, is the Saturn Uranus second retrograde hit. When we have long-term transits with Saturn, with Uranus, with Chiron, with Neptune, with Pluto, they hit 3 times at least because they're retrograde for so long. So this Saturn Uranus is where second or retrograde hit. Saturn is retrograde and hitting Uranus again. And so it's like the middle hit is when the issues and problems are now fully exposed and can be at what can be their, how should we say, darkest moment, so to speak, like where it can just feel like, like an apex or a low point of where this energy can drag us. And so that's the intensity that is now, lining up in the background of June. And that is so much, once again, and we're seeing it over and over, of structures failing and all around us. The things that we're used to in our physical real world just kind of like no longer functioning well, falling apart, other things replacing them. Sometimes they don't stick very long. Other times they do, stick around. But a lot of change going on, a lot of things that are just not normal, that are different. And that is really where we're hitting this middle point now. And in the middle of the eclipse season, and the Mercury retrograde is just pushing that frustration level of that energy up to a new point. And so that is the main thing we are going to be dealing with this month, is we're going to really probably see a lot of events being triggered that represent that falling apart energy in our world and in our individual lives. And so the other things I really want to mention in June is just 3 planets changing direction and 1 planet changing signs. So starting to go more and more into that time of the year when all long-term planets are going retrograde. So, Saturn's retrograde, and now on June 20th, Jupiter is going to go retrograde, and it's only gotten to about 2 degrees of Pisces, a sign that it's really happy and strong and in rulership. And then it's going to go back and by July 29th into Aquarius for pretty much the rest of the year. Jupiter will go direct. I believe it's going to go direct in October again, but it won't get back to Pisces until Christmas Eve, December 24th. So we're going back to Jupiter in Aquarius, basically, or heading back that way once June 20th hits. And that means, it's going to be a period of where a lot of our, philosophies and values systems, we're going to have to really think them over and really decide whether they're really working for us anymore, and whether, they're working for us in relation to the rest of the world too. So that can be one thing. And then Neptune is also going to go retrograde this month, 6 days later on June 26th. And remember, both Neptune and Jupiter have that similar spiritual concern thing going on. So Neptune will go retrograde, and remember, Neptune is in Pisces, will be in Pisces for years still, and it will not go direct until early December. And once again, very similar thing. It's going to be a time where we're going to be probably sitting there looking at our spiritual values, things like that, and really assessing, how they're working for us, and whether they're working for us. Our ideals, the things that inspire us, may all require some adjusting over these next few months. And then the other planet changing direction is our friend Mercury. He is going to go direct on the 21st and go back forward motion, still in Gemini, but will also be in shadow period for the rest of June. So not on the 21st do you jump right back into projects or anything. In fact, if anything, remember, when the stations occur, that's when the Mercury retrograde can be strongest. So, the effects of it. So as it actually turns around and starts to go forward, slows down and starts to go forward again, that's when Mercury's retrograde effects can be most acute. So, it will be, it really is not a month to start anything new for the whole month, even with Mercury retrograde going out on the 21st and back to a direct motion. And then the last thing is June 26th, Mars will lead the charge into Leo on June 26th. And, Mars in Leo can, be interesting. It's very fiery energy. It can be very arrogant really fast. It's willful. It knows what it wants, but it's like pride gets involved very easily in what we're doing, and therefore the arrogance, stubbornness kind of thing. But at the same time, it gives us the will to do things that normally we may not. So it almost gives us a dose of what we could call courage or something like that. So, but remember, can be very arrogant too. But definitely Mars itself will be much happier in Leo than he is in Cancer. So anyway, an intense month coming on, the eclipse, we're in the middle of eclipse season, these retrogrades, that exactness of the second Saturn Uranus square is really, we're going to probably see some really intense things in the world. And one of the things that's really interesting too about that Uranus-Saturn square is Ceres is in Taurus also and will be conjunct Uranus, and so we may see events that really put our nurturing needs on an individual level and our resources on a bigger level really under stress. And we can already see a lot of that. We can see there's shortages all over, inflation, prices going up, things that, we normally could get very easily or very difficult to get sometimes now. They're long, convoluted things. So Ceres going there and getting involved in this, once again, can be very threatening to resources, shortages, things like that, and basically exposing broken systems of productivity that are no longer working properly. And then, Uranus will feed this rebelliousness about that, of just people being very upset and very angry about that it getting to that point. So it's it's really and once again the Saturn part is the restriction of those resources, that kind of thing. So it may have a lot to do, this second hit, with what we're kind of seeing already, and that the world's resources right now are really under stress for various reasons, and we can really maybe hit an apex point. And it could be a lot of events too. A lot of times physical real world events that have to do with nature can affect those things too. So productivity, harvests, things like that could all be down, because they could be affected by natural events that, just not, surprising, surstorms or things that might knock a crop out. Something like that would be a kind of example of what I mean. So I really think with Ceres involved with this so intimately and deeply on this one, that's where we may see a lot of the structure falling apart and needing to be replaced with something else new. All right, and remember, North Node's still in Gemini, so it's still saying those new things are right around you. They're in the people and places and things that are right around you. That's where the path lies of finding the right solutions, but having to sort through all that Gemini information, especially during this Mercury retrograde, and discern what's really, really, really correct for you. All right, I'm Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. Become a follower on YouTube. You have to have a YouTube account. Then become a follower, turn on the notifications so I do still try to social media bomb people, and sometimes I'm not as consistent as others, so this is a way of making sure you never miss it. Now listen, also on Spotify has got me out on probably about 15 different podcasts. I know the Apple podcast is the one that's most popular. People all over the world checking in on it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your ear. It's a free service. please, let's continue to get this to grow and get whoever would be interested in this forecast that you think, please send them the link. That's the best way you can pay me back. If you'd like to give me a donation, which some people like to, my email, mattHue823 That's mattHue823 is also my Zelle account. Venmo and PayPal too. So you can always send a donation there. And that is also the email to get me about readings. I do all kinds of readings. Usually have a little bit of a waiting list. So, if you're interested in doing one soon, just contact me. We can talk about prices, do natal charts, predictive readings where we look at the next year, different relationship readings, elections for trying to find the best timing to start something, horary questions, fixed star readings for deeper soul purpose, locational and astrolocality if you're looking to move somewhere else. So all kinds of different readings available. Classes available too. There's 5 classes available right now on Dropbox for $25 a class, or $20 if you are a student with a valid ID. I will probably get back to making classes at some point, and been a little bit of a slowdown on that, but there's one, the whole zodiac is there if you just want to take a one-off class and learn a little bit more about your sign. That's all available too. And like I said, I do try to social media bomb some people. If you prefer not to get that, you can let me know. I will try to honor that. And otherwise, get ready for some interesting sailing. We're in a big time of change, and it's really being driven by this Saturn-Uranus square. So I think we're in for some really, high or low points or triggering events, whatever you'd like to call it. So, kind of hang on tight, support one another, and until next week. And next week we're going to have the solar eclipse to look at. The new moon in Gemini will be a solar eclipse, so that second eclipse. So definitely tune in to hear about that one. This is Matt Lawton, the Astrological Winds channel, signing off.